Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery podcast are proud to bring you Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast. Join your hosts, Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, as they address the real issues in health and wellness for first responders. From physical and mental health to relationships and work-life balance, we leave no stone unturned. Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, as well as iHeartRadio. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery answering the call.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with Jersey Ed. And how are you, Jersey Ed?
Good there, Podfather. I'm excellent. You're in the backseat of your car again, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm not really here with Jersey Ed, although he's been in the backseat of my car a few times.
Easy over there, easy. Don't tell him our secrets.
This epidemic has got us crazy. I've been sleeping in the car. The wife threw me out of the house. And, I don't know, it's like the old days.
Yeah, right.
Quarantine to the backseat of the Benz.
Yeah,
not a bad place to be quarantined to.
No,
you got a lot of room back there.
A lot of room. I wish I had this in my younger days when I was single. This would have been heaven, man.
I know, right?
But,
good Lord.
Yeah. So anyway, how you doing, Ed?
I'm doing okay, Podfather. I'm quarantined here again, and it's I have my makeshift studio here to hide the garage stuff. I got a lot of comments about the garage, but I figured I'd throw that sheet up and make it look like I'm in Sweet Studio, but I'm not. So
it doesn't look anything like Sweet Studio. Don't be smirched.
Look, I got a new chair. I showed everybody last week. I got a new chair.
Trying though.
I got a chair.
He's trying.
Don't besmirch the studio.
I got to tell you, this chair is much more comfortable than studio chairs, guys.
Well,
Jesus Christ.
Expect a couple of those in the mail then.
I'll drag this one up to Boston next time.
Why don't you just
have a couple shipped over?
I would love
As
to.
you know, there's nothing like Sweet Studio. I was there recently, and boy, it's nice being there. We miss you, but it's really nice being in that studio. Everything gets taken care of.
I know. Listen, it's great because I sit here. I was blasting some Judas Priest before. Sweets is like, "What are you listening to?" I'm here by myself. I usually get there, bring you guys breakfast, and we shoot the bullshit, and a lot of good stuff happens before, like the meetings, before AA, a lot of good stuff happens, and even in roll call, I'm sure Podfather, before roll call, you guys all get together and talk shit before you even get into work and shit like that happens. That's
camaraderie, all the camaraderie we're missing out of.
Yeah, so I do miss that, guys. I really do. I mean, it's
we do too.
Yeah. So Sweets, the studio's hanging in there again another week. It's empty, dusting all the dust off of all the equipment.
Yeah, squirrel's living in there right now, but we'll fix that before you guys get there. Don't worry.
Good. Well, it looks like June, maybe. I'm not sure 100%, but it looks like June possibly. So
hopefully soon. Hopefully.
I know. So, but everybody's safe with this pandemic and everything. Nobody's getting sick, right? You guys are all good?
Yeah, we're hanging in there.
All right, good. And hopefully our first responders. Mike, this is a hell of a time to be a first responder now, huh? Getting out there and
boy, those guys. I got a lot of clients. I got a lot of COs and POs and nurses, and oh my goodness, it's a busy thing. But I've been doing a lot of stuff, with masks in my office. I still have groups 2 nights a week. We all wear masks and gloves and sit around. And I've been doing side-by-side counseling sessions in cars, whatever I can do to help out,
Yeah, well, that's what we do in this time. We all join together, and it's sad that it takes a pandemic like this to do something that you do your whole life. As a first responder, help people. Everybody's helping everybody now. Everybody's lending a hand. Everybody's more considerate. Before this, it's almost like remember 9/11, right after 9/11, man, you would let a fucking rodent cross the street and before you run it over, now, then in between, it's like, fuck you. I ain't fucking, you want to get ahead of me? Fuck you. I'm going to go faster. And I'm definitely, I'm an offender of that, but now everybody's slowing down a little bit. I get out there and walk every morning. I go for a run. I'm saying hello to everybody, and, just a different world now. And, that's going to come to an end soon too,
Hopefully soon.
Well, I mean, the niceness.
stuff like this brings out either the best or the worst in people, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's
Absolutely.
what I'm seeing. Is I'm seeing, because I like to focus on the good, is that this is, and you talk about all the time, the word heroes, Podfather, that this doesn't, these people that are out there right now, these people that are responding to this pandemic, this is bringing out the best in them, and it's highlighting the best of them to the people who maybe didn't notice them before this.
Sure.
And I think
Sure.
that's huge, and that's where that word hero is coming from. Like, teachers weren't heroes 6 months ago. They
Nope.
were
Right.
underpaid, overworked babysitters. And now, because they're still working and they're trying to teach our kids while we're going through this difficult thing, the heroes. But they were heroes all along. They've been raising a generation of kids where parents couldn't.
Yep.
Sure.
Teaching life lessons and all this
Sure.
other
Yeah.
stuff. And the same could be said for all the first responders out there, that
Right.
this is
Right.
highlighting what good people they really are and why we need them.
I was talking to somebody the other day and said, I can't wait to the kids go back to school because I need a babysitter. I mean, think about it. I mean,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
people, if and the teachers, they're not that they're babysitters, but the schools and the teachers and everybody helps us, get on with our lives. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They got our kids. They spend more time with our children than we do.
yeah, exactly. So we don't have a school teacher. We don't have a babysitter. We don't have any of that on board right now. But we do have a retired corrections officer on with us, who I'm going to bring in a minute. Joe Chlebowski. Am I saying that right, Sweets?
Chlebowski.
Joe
Chlebowski.
Chlebowski. He's going to be coming on in here in a minute once I do the introduction, and he's a retired corrections officer, and and I'm sure he's a teacher. I know he's a dad, so we're always teaching when we're dads. So, but anyways, why Sweets, you're bringing him in? I'm gonna kind of give a little background on him. So, get that satellite fired up and bring Joe in. So welcome, Joe Chlebowski. Joe
it's Chlebowski.
Chlebowski.
Ch, not K.
It's spelled on my sheet CHL. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's Ch.
Chlebowski. All right. All right. So are we going to spend most of the show fucking talking about his last name?
We'll stop murdering his name, and we won't.
Hey, listen, you guys make me read this shit. So if anybody wants to take it over, Joe's a retired corrections officer from Middlesex County Department of Corrections, and he was in the New Jersey Gang Intelligence Unit. Wow, we're going to talk to him about that. Retired. He's retired on disability due to an injury to his back and neck on the job. Joe went to grad school from Rutgers University, and he got his master's in social work. He's currently doing clinical work and he is a treatment advocate for Recovery Centers of America in New Jersey. Joe is also an adjunct professor in Middlesex County College, and he's also a person in long-term recovery. And here's the most important part. It's highlighted. Father of 2 beautiful children. And Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on. I sound pretty important when you say it like that. I mean,
hey, well, to chalk it up to Stacy, she wrote it all. So.
I know. Stacy's like my biggest fan. You know what it is? It's like, it's something I talk about often with the people I work with. Is we forget about the things that we accomplished, and we have this like, Albert Ellis says we have like 80% of our self-talk is negative.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So what I tell people a lot of times is don't forget about those things you accomplished, whether they're big or small,
Yeah, absolutely. That is true. So
but thank you for the warm welcome.
Right.
That was really nice. Good to hear about all the shit that I've done.
I like hearing about your masters in social work and working as a correctional officer. I too am a master's in social work, and when you're in law enforcement and you end up with a job like this, and you get a master's in social work helping people, I think it really solidifies our ability to help people in our field, because as well as I do, Joe, most CEOs aren't going to trust talking to anybody unless they've been on the job and know the job. Correct?
Ain't that the truth, man? That's absolutely 100%. I didn't know.
Me neither. No.
I didn't know that there were programs and people out there that I could trust and talk to. Even people internally in my department, there's such stigma that we carry around that stops us almost from getting healthy.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I
Um,
have to
So right.
imagine. I'd have to imagine in the CO world, unlike fire, police, you guys got to be tough guys because you're fucking watching a bunch of bad guys, and
well,
you know you got to keep the key to them and make sure you're in control and not them.
Ed, it's interesting you say that because this person that sits here today is not the person I was
Oh yeah.
15 years ago, and I hope that's true for all of us. But the person that I had to be to do that job was somebody who didn't feel anything.
Right.
You know, so shutting everything down is an interesting process, because what you realize, what you start to find is that you can't just shut down the bad stuff. You know, the good stuff shuts down with that.
Yeah.
Can't pick and choose. So I became almost an empty vessel who was wearing this mask of law enforcement for what was I on the job, 7 years? You know, and then you start, well, why is there such a high divorce rate in law enforcement and first responders and EMTs and nurses? Why is there such a high divorce rate? Why is there such a high suicide rate?
Mm.
Why is there so much substance abuse going on? Why are we drinking every night?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because you can't feel anything there, because you need to protect yourself. Now, trust me when I tell you, that protected me from a lot of things. But for me to survive past that, it had to change.
Well,
Absolutely.
and I like.
And you know,
Get Papa.
no, I was just going to say the statistics. What you're quoting, Joe, the Department of Corrections up here in Massachusetts, they've done a lot of studies, and you know, police used to have the highest divorce rate. Police used to have the highest suicide rate. Now it's correctional officers. They have surpassed police officers. So
Oh,
that
without a doubt.
says a lot about the
So-
job that you're talking about.
Anytime, and I'm sorry to jump in, but
No, go
anytime
ahead.
I talk to somebody, I work with a lot of people. And for some reason, law enforcement tends to get involved with either teachers or nurses. So I work with a lot of nurses. So I know a lot of people who they're like, oh, my husband's a correction officer. And I'm like, sorry. And I don't mean that. It's funny,
I
but
know.
because it absolutely changes who you are.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. Joe, talk about the empty shell you mentioned. Did that empty shell go to work, go to your personal life, go into your home life, go into everything you did? Were you just that all around empty shell?
Yeah, that empty shell was something that was created. It was a character. So it was a character that carried into all parts of my life. When you walk in that building, even the first time, they walk you through in PT, the PT khaki, the PT grade, PT khakis, whatever they call them, and you get blasted by inmates, by officers, by everybody. You're walking through as a target, and you have to learn to be tough. Don't show any
Yeah.
emotion. And then you go to agency training where you're just getting blasted by instructors, and then the police academy where they're breaking you down and building you up, and that's what you need to do. I understand that. I love the academy. Great. I got the PT all day. I'm a gym guy. I got the PT all day. So that empty shell is something that it's more like an armor, right? It's like this armor that you learn to put on every day so that you can go to battle every day. Emotional battle, spiritual battle, physical battle, and you're protected from all that stuff around you. The problem is that sort of armor, that mask, gets harder and harder to take off. And it does. It goes into personal life. And then you have to see things and do things that normal people wouldn't have to do. And it's almost like you wear that. You wear that, and then you're going to the barbershop to get your haircut, and you see here, hey CO, and you're like almost pulling your gun out because you're scared.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it definitely goes into different parts of your life.
Yeah. And so for the corrections officers that are out there now, how do you not, and not in recovery, just a normal everyday corrections officer, how do you not become that empty shell, or how do you remove that armor in a good, healthy way? And we know how you did it. We'll talk about the second half of the show, how you did it in an unhealthy way, but you were able to get back on track. But how do you do it in a healthy way now that you see that you're out of it and you see it and you can explain to some of these officers? How do you remove it healthy and put it back on healthy?
That's an interesting question. It really is, and I wish I had the exact answers. What I can tell you is some advice, and we as people in this field, especially in corrections, need to stick together in an honest way, right? We need to be able to speak to somebody, and if you need to be like if you need to emote, if you need to get out some feelings, you need to be with somebody that you can trust to say, I don't know how to deal with this right now. It's the story of the soldier in the hole. You guys know the story. The soldier's in the hole. He calls out to all these different people. They can't help him.
Yep.
Then he finds another soldier. The soldier jumps down in the hole with him, and he says, "What are you doing? Now you're stuck in the hole too. The priest couldn't help me. The doctor couldn't help me. The psychiatrist couldn't help me." And he goes, "No, don't worry, buddy. I've been here before, and I know my way out. We need to stick together."
Yeah.
Whether it's support groups. I love what they do in Boston. I went up to Boston. I was in school at that time during the marathon bombing, and I was asked to come up to help do some labor with their peer-to-peer unit. And the recovery in Boston was so different than the recovery in New Jersey. And I brought a bunch of guys up there, and they were like, "Holy shit, these guys are actually talking about."
Right.
I loved it, man. I loved it.
Yeah.
So,
Real quick, we got it.
Hey, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take a break. I want to go back, and when we come back from break, I'd like to expound on that, because I can tell you a little bit about the Boston program. 34 years ago, I was down there visiting that program, getting help. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about that when we come back.
Yeah, we're gonna come back and talk about your recovery, talk about the program, and all that stuff. So hang on there, guys. We'll be right back.
Yep. Friends of me, answering the call. The podcast for first responders.
All right, we'll be right back.
We'll be back.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Answering the call, the First Responders podcast. I am the Podfather Mike Miles, and I'm here with Jersey Ed.
What's up, everybody? And Sweets.
I am here.
And it's always Sweets, the producer extraordinaire. Sweets, that story, that story that I guess Joe was talking about, the man in the hole. I think we talked about that most recently.
We did.
I guess that story transcends every struggle.
That's a great analogy. I heard that yesterday from Sweets, and I loved it. And now I'm hearing it again today, so it means a lot to me. It really is.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Ed, you got podcast pick of the week?
I do. I got the podcast pick of the week, guys. It's a little different. I figured I'd actually Melissa, our background girl who does everything, who actually makes this show work besides Sweets. She actually texted over me. It's called Ear Hustle Podcast. Host Nigel Poor and Earlon Wood. It's about it's Ear Hustle brings you the daily realities of life inside prison, shared by those living it, and stories from the outside post-incarceration. This podcast, the podcast is a partnership between Poor and Bay Area visual artist Woods, formerly incarcerated at San Quentin Prison, and was co-founder with San Quentin residents Eitan Williams. You can find Ear Hustle Podcast anywhere you get your podcast from, and on their website, earhustle.com. So this is a little different, guys. This is with inmates, this podcast. And it's pretty cool. I mean, Sweets, I'm sure you can give us some ear hustle, but these guys are like hardcore guys, and I'm sure Mike and Joe, you guys heard all these stories before, but us on the outside world, it's kind of fascinating, and kind of strange to hear all these stories that they talk about on this Ear Hustle. So, oh, Sweets, I forgot my drum roll. Can you give it to me now?
You got it.
There you go. Thanks. So, Ear Hustle Podcast is Jersey Ed's podcast pick of the week. Back to you, Mike, in the back of the Mercedes.
In the back of the Mercedes with the satellite hovering above me.
That's right.
So before we went to the break, Joe was talking about coming up here in 9/11 and having some involvement with the
not
peer support.
9/11, not 9/11, the marathon bombing.
Oh, I'm sorry, the marathon bombing, and my mistake. And the peer support units up here. I've actually had the opportunity to teach PTSD, Jeffrey Mitchell model. The CISM, peer support. And it's real important, I believe, to mention that, when I first got sober back in '86, I was a young cop, and there was a guy named Eddie Donovan. You can Google Eddie, and he started a program in Boston. He was a Boston police officer that back then they called burnout. We weren't peer support people. We were stress officers. But Eddie Donovan started a program, and there was AA meetings for cops and corrections, and it was in Jamaica Plain. And I mean, these were some tough dudes, man. These guys, they carried guns, and they had some stories. And in '87, I flew down to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I went to a seminar down there that was to help people in law enforcement. And there was a guy named James Manley. James Manley was an FBI agent who had been sober about 6-7 years. And he and I were keynote speakers, and we spoke about cops and recovery and everything. But he also alluded to the fact that up in Boston, we had a lot of, good programs. Mm-hmm. And it was where it all began for cops. And Joe Rizzuti, he's a good friend of ours. Eddie, you're a good friend of Joe's. We love Joe. And Joe is a retired Everett cop. And he's still, to this day, when there's any type of, like, cops are killed on duty, he's right there. He's got a hot dog cart. He's always out talking to people. But his biggest thing in life is helping cops. I get more messages from him, and I never say no, whether I take the insurance, if I don't. I've put it this way. I've helped more police officers and correctional officers without making a penny, because what I'm getting out of them, money can't buy. Yeah. And that's a fact. What do you think of that? What I'm saying, Joe? What do you think?
Well, that's the reason I got into this field. There was I got hurt on the job. I have 7 herniated discs, back surgery, 4 anchors in my shoulder.
Jesus.
And I didn't want to retire. It wasn't my choice. It was like I got a phone call from, I believe it was my captain at the time. And he said, "Joe, I'm calling to give you your options." And I said, "Well, what options? What do you mean options? I'm coming back." He goes, "Well, you can't. You can either quit or retire." And I said, "Well, I'm going to retire then. I don't quit. I've never been a quitter." So that transition for me was so incredibly difficult, because I was talking about the armor before. Well, the armor was still there, but it wasn't justified. It wasn't who I was anymore. So I felt exposed, and it was like a raw nerve. And truth be told, I was suffering with things like PTSD, and I was suffering with extreme depression, anxiety. I was drinking every day. I was on these pain pills that the doctors gave me that told me don't make me feel better, and they did. And I'll tell you what, those pain pills helped make all the emotion go away too. So even better, right?
Absolutely.
So I was at the point, I was suicidal. We talked about suicide in law enforcement. I was that guy. Mm-hmm. Yep. I was suicidal, and it got to the point where you're so helpless. And I find it disturbing when people say people who commit suicide are selfish, and they get mad at them, because I can tell you from experience that I was at the point where I was so hopeless that my daughter and my family was better off without me, because the money would have been more important than what I was, right? And it got to the point where I was so suicidal that it came very close, let's just put it that way. But I was scared that my daughter was going to find me. And I knew that she was more likely to commit suicide if I had, right? So the choice was live or die. And that was it. Yeah. So I chose to live. And I told myself at that time, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to live, right? Whatever it takes. So
Is that how you end up getting to recovery?
well, eventually, right? Eventually, because I didn't know. You know, this is what we do. We drink. We drink. We go to the bar after work. We drink. We debrief. Why won't these guys get off of heroin? We're drinking beers and shots, taking our pills. We're doing the same shit, right?
That's true. Yeah.
You know,
100%.
So it got to the point. So I said, all right, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be in the world? I want to help people. How do I help people? I guess I got to go to school. So I started going to school, and I found this path, right? I found this path to do what I needed to do. And I want to help people. I want to be a therapist because a therapist helped me, essentially. And I start walking this path and going through it. And then my friends start dying. And I'm like looking at what I'm doing, and I'm telling other people, well, maybe you shouldn't drink tonight. But meanwhile, I'm drinking every night and popping pills all day, every day, just to get through the day. So a friend of mine died. He overdosed and died. A few weeks later, he wrote a letter to me and a few other people saying, I'm so sorry. He was just full of shame. And he was going to do this ibogaine treatment and it was going to get him better. Well, he came back from the ibogaine treatment, overdosed that night, and died. And I knew in that moment, and I was a junior in college. And I went from Middlesex County College to Rutgers. And I was at Rutgers. I was junior in college and just so happened to be taking a substance abuse class. And my friend dies, and I said, you know what? This is the path I need to be on. I need to be, I need to learn more about this. So I get through my bachelor's, and I'm still drinking all the time. And I get into the master's program, and I met a person who I didn't know he 12-stepped me, but he my man 12-stepped me. Like, he was like, well, what if you didn't drink tonight, Joe? He didn't know I was taking painkillers because I kept it secret from everybody. Nobody knew that I was suffering in such silence, and that's what a lot of people are doing. A lot of people on the jobs are doing is they're suffering in silence.
Yeah.
They feel like they can't talk to anybody. And I was that guy. I couldn't tell anybody anything, but it's okay for me to drink some beers every night or vodka on the weekends, maybe some vodka during the day too, This was okay, acceptable. But it wasn't. I was dying on the inside. And he says, well, what if you don't drink tonight? I said, I don't have to drink. I'm tough. I'm a tough guy, right? I go home that night, and what do you think I did? I drank.
Yeah.
And I knew it was a problem.
Of course.
Yeah.
So adapt and overcome. I make a plan. And my plan was, he ended up coming to, we did like Bill W., Dr. Bob style. Like he kind of, my man, he ended up like living at my house because we were going to the same college, and he was a guy, he was like me, tattoos, big guy, and he ended up living with me, and we made a plan. Like every time I wanted to drink, I would go to the gym. So I joined a 24-hour gym. I'll tell you what, I was in the gym at 4 a.m. a lot. I'm in the gym 2 days a day. They're like, Joe, I think you have a problem.
Problem worse out there.
good problem, yeah.
And what I didn't tell you was I can't even tell you how many times I detoxed, and I detoxed from opioids and alcohol on my couch. I remember my family being like, Joe, why do you have the flu so much? Meanwhile, I'm like trying to get off drugs. I didn't know there was help. I didn't know that I could turn to people and places and programs. And the first time I walked into my therapist's office, this is how paranoid we are as law enforcement. I walk into my therapist's office. I knew she worked with other people in law enforcement. And I said to her, is this being recorded? And you know how she got me? She says, sit the fuck down. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Well, and it sounds like your life is much better now. We only got a couple minutes left here. Tell us what it's like to be in recovery. Tell us how free it is, and anybody out there in corrections or law enforcement or anybody listening, what the freedom is now versus what it was.
So this disease of substance use disorder is I had to change my perspective on it, just like I had to change my perspective on a lot of things in my life to be able to survive. This thing to me is a gift. I look at this as a superpower. Okay. My experiences can help other people. So what's it like? I feel connected. to everybody and everything around me. My kids like me. My kids know that it's a choice. You don't have to drink all the time now. Like, they have this option now. Like, and it's actually funny. My son the other day, before quarantine, before all this COVID stuff, we were having a play date at his friend's house, and his dad's a drinker, and he has like a bar set up in the shed, and the kids are playing, and they stop playing, and the other kid goes, "I'm gonna drink beer like my daddy when I'm older."
I remember those.
And my son stops, and he goes, and he got like shocked. He's like, "Me and my daddy, we don't drink beer." And do you know how proud I started? I'm crying,
Right.
like literally. I'm like,
That's
it's
awesome.
working.
Yeah.
So, but I'm also able to cry now. I'm able to feel like I'm, life. They say beyond your wildest dreams. My God, man, I feel so blessed.
Mhm.
I'm connected to my higher power. I'm connected to the world. I feel great, and I want people to know that it started with me being open to the possibility of change. And I wish somebody told me then that this temporary motion isn't going to last forever. This temporary thing, there is help for it.
Absolutely.
And I don't recommend my path to anybody, because my success rate was just like, the people who try to do it on their own the success rate is so low.
Right.
So reach out to people, reach out to me, reach out to Ed, reach out to the Podfather. We're here. There's people here that can help you. And I promise you, not a damn person in your department will know.
Nope.
That's right.
But then you can go back to your department. I got a guy here right now. I'm actually at work right now. I got a guy here right now who's in the fire department, and he walks around in shame almost. And we had this conversation the other day. He goes, "Do you know this opportunity that you have? You're going to be the guy that's going to help the other guys, right?" And he kind of picks his head up and he's like, "Yeah, I guess that's a good perspective."
Yeah.
I'm like, it's all about perspective. And if
The beauty.
If somebody doesn't like it, fuck them.
That's right. The beauty of recovery. The beauty of recovery is, for me anyway, was getting that grateful heart and knowing how lucky I am to be alive. Suicide ideation. It's like the common cold of people that are suffering from addiction.
Mhm.
So the gratitude you have in your heart, it's exuberant. I can see it. I can hear it. It's obvious. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
When you're in Jersey, come sit in some of my groups, man. You got to see.
I will.
And it's contagious. It's contagious. I'm not tooting my own horn, because we're working together. We're doing this thing together. It's contagious around the whole group, man. You see people light up, and you see them, man, I relate to that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, thank you very much. We appreciate your story, your honesty, your truthfulness, and your
Great
passion
guest.
about
Great
recovery and law enforcement and everything you do for law enforcement now. We really appreciate it, even though you're not on that side anymore, but you're helping the first responders, and they are blessed to have you as a therapist and it's somebody who can be there for them. So thank you very much, Joe.
Thanks, Ed.
Joe, thank you very much for your honesty and for just what you gave us here. And I'll tell you, anybody watching this video, anyone who's sick or suffering, you know what? Watch this a couple of times. Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Everything's in the show notes. Give us a call, because we're not bullshitting here. We will help you. We will be there. No one needs to know about what you're doing.
Nope.
That was my biggest fear. Who's going to find out? Most everyone knew anyway. I wasn't right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You think you look great. You look in that mirror. You're like, you look like shit, bro.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, when I still look like shit because I'm old, but I'll tell you, I had a wonderful career. 5 years active, drinking, drugging, 30 years sober, helping people. My career couldn't have been better. My retirement party was a testament I'll never forget. I had no idea how many people were going to be there. It was packed.
Absolutely. Joe Chlebowski.
There you
Right?
go.
Thank you very much, Joe. We'll talk to you
Eddie,
soon.
you got it.
I got it.
Hey, you can put my number.
Got it.
I give you permission. My cell phone number in the
Perfect.
whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Anybody?
right, we'll put it all in the notes. Thanks, Joe. Podfather.
Thanks, Joe.
So that Jesus Christ, he even looks like you, Podfather.
Oh no, he's a good-looking kid.
All
Let me
buffed
tell you
up.
though,
Look at you. You were probably buffed up one day, weren't you?
Yeah, I used to be buffed up. But here's the thing: it's good. It's so good to hear somebody who's young, who's gone the same road I went. That master's in social work, and I'm sure Joe will agree with this. That's not an easy degree to get, especially if you're a cop or a correctional officer, because most people that are getting those degrees are ultra liberals.
Mhm.
They don't like us.
Yeah.
First of all, they don't like anybody that wears a badge.
Yeah.
But second of all, it's most important to have that degree, to have that, because you need that to help people. But once you get it, I'll tell you, it's so good hearing, listening to that kid talk.
I know. And again, he sounds like you in a younger version. If I
Yep.
knew you when you were his age, I think that's exactly how you were, because you're like that now. But but he definitely has a lot of pep to him, thank God. And so there's another Podfather out there. Maybe he'll take over the show for us one day.
Hey, there you go. Exactly. the new version.
Yeah, that's right. Now we just got to find another bald guy like me to take over my spot. So
you'll be hard to replace. You're one in a million.
yeah, exactly. So sweet. Go ahead.
No, just I want to say another great guest, Eddie. Great job.
Thanks, Podfather. Sweet. So you heard it from this side of the wall. Give it from the other side of the wall. You were in, and you heard all that. You're in recovery too, and what? I mean, would you respect a CO like that, or would you say "fuck you" to him?
I mean, I had friends that were corrections officers while I was in, so I mean, it was I had we had a mutually beneficial relationship. I mean, if I did my job, then the unit would stay calm, and if they did their job, so same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I guess we both experienced it from different sides. Like, working in that field, I couldn't imagine working in that field, because I couldn't imagine trying to babysit or herd cats, so to speak, with 120 guys on a unit and trying to get everybody to get along and behave. And and then you got the relationships with the other corrections officers, and the office relationships, if you will, and then your personal life. And I didn't have the fear of, like, when I got out of jail, worrying about whether or not a corrections officer was going to see me and do something to me. If I saw them, I'd go say hi to them. But like Joe said, it'd be like, hands back, like, what do you need? Like, why are you saying what's up to me?
Exactly.
And so I didn't when I got out of jail, and I can imagine corrections officers, I was trying to think about it when Joe said it earlier, like, if I had that job, coming home to my family and my kids, and then, just going to the grocery store, and like somebody behind you was in with you and you gave them a hard time, like all that stuff kind of crept up into my mind.
Wow.
What would be going through my head working that job. And it's not like you're dealing with people you're never going to see again. These people get out. I mean, unless you're in the shoe at Walpole, like, these people are coming out, they're going to be working in the community. They might be mowing your lawn. They might be at the bank, and you're going to see them. And so there's a different dynamic there, that if I was that person and I was employed in that position, it would come with an added level of stress.
Absolutely.
Because out of the walls, you're not necessarily a cop. Whereas if you're a cop, you're always a cop. You're an off-duty cop. You got your gun on you. You got your badge. You know what I mean? Like, you're not as worried about seeing people. But as a corrections officer, my understanding, maybe you can make an arrest, but you're not actively walking around as an officer. You're even an off-duty officer. So there's, I would be nervous with that. And
absolutely.
But yeah, there's stress with all these jobs, and all these guests come on. And I think that to hear someone that went through it, struggled with addiction, and then found their way out, even though they didn't, weren't even aware of it. It's not like it was spoken about openly within the corrections officer community, and that he found it and he did it on his couch and he fought his way through it and he came on the show to talk about it like that. I don't care if you're a corrections officer, an inmate, or a homeless guy. Like, I'm proud of you just for doing that.
Yeah,
exactly. No matter what you did for a living, like, you overcame an obstacle that other people might not do, and you're talking about it and hopefully inspiring another person to do the same. And to me, that's everything. That's humanity.
Absolutely. So. Amen on that one. It's sweet. I admire Joe's recovery. I admire your recovery too. It's
just not as much.
That's not. He might have taken your place there, Sweets. But no, you guys have something similar. Fuck you if you don't like my recovery. Then you know what, make your own up. But this is how mine is, and I don't give a fuck, man. I'm sober, and that's it. And that's how you operate too, Sweets. When you say it like it is. If you don't like it, it is what it is. And not hurtful, but just because you take care of yourself. And I myself and the Podfather have a hard time doing that, because we like to people please. And I think that's something that I envy in guys like you that can say, hey, this is my life. If you don't like it, then I ain't gonna give a shit, So that's something I seen in him, and I seen in you, and I see in you too, Sweets.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of if you don't like what I'm doing, then there's some sand you can pound or a rock you can kick somewhere. But yeah, recovery is a personal journey, no
Yeah.
matter what. And so
Yeah.
if you are actively working your personal journey of recovery, I don't really care what anybody says to you, and I definitely don't care
Right.
what anybody says
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
It's about my happiness. I was struggling to survive with addiction. I was the one that was in that hopeless place that Joe was talking about. I felt that. I contemplated that multiple times. I tried to take my life multiple times, but I was too scared to end it. And I would always either back out or end up at the hospital trying to puke up the pills or whatever I did. And it's because life was so hard.
Yeah.
It was hard and I was making it worse. And the only
Yeah.
solution I had was drugs. And
Yeah.
I was really grateful when I got involved in a personal recovery process, started going through the steps and found relief in another form.
Yeah.
And I don't care what form you find it in. If it's not causing you harm, then it's good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's it.
And by no means do I mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a
Absolutely.
really good way. I mean that, that you guys have good recovery and you take care of yourself. Not you're going to tell somebody to go fuck themselves, but
I will, though. I will.
Yeah, well, you would. Yeah, but I think Joe would too. but
Couple of gym guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean in a good way where it you take care of yourself. So Podfather, good episode, man.
Yes, sir.
Good questions. Good
Great
guests,
episode.
man. Yeah, absolutely. So you want to take us out here? I think that's about it we have here for now.
It was like the young Mike. Absolutely. Hey, listen, I answered in the call, the First Responders podcast, and what an honor and a privilege having Joe on and Sweets and yourself. And see you guys next month.
Yeah. Stay safe, everybody.
All right, boys.
That concludes this episode of Answering the Call, the First Responder Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for sponsoring the show and supporting first responders who are struggling with addiction and mental health. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com.